Dire team ban. Radiant
What's
team
cracking,
ban.
ladies and gentlemen? FortyeniN coming at you with another community shoutcast for the UGC Dota 2 League Season 2. We're loading into game number 1 of the Best of 2 series in the Eastern Invite between Slaymakers and Joey. And this, of course, is 6.82, so things are about to get a little bit strange as we're in that 1 to 2 month transitional period where pro teams haven't quite really wrapped their heads around the
5 seconds remaining.
So we're going to be seeing some pretty unconventional strategies until a metagame starts to really establish itself. But for
Reserve
the meanwhile,
time.
because Terrorblade has been added into Captain's Mode, second pick actually has been receiving a lot more
Dire team
of a
ban.
benefit in this patch, just because Terrorblade means that you have to ban out that hero. And Slaymaker's going
Radiant
with Terrorblade
team
as well as a
ban.
Silencer, while Joey lead with the first ban Jakiro. Jakiro has been heavily nerfed in 6.82, not necessarily the hero himself, but the fact that the Death Ball tower pushing meta actually has been completely changed, as
Dire
towers now
team
give
pick.
much less gold, as well as the fact that they have a
Radiant
lot more
team
armor,
pick.
and then you've got the fortification refresh on top of that. So we've got the first pick, Legion Commander, coming out from Slaymakers. And Legion Commander, she's a hero that is
Radiant
essentially
team
the updated version of Lifestealer. Very aggressive,
Dire team
you
pick.
fight very early on, you get a very powerful snowballing lead
Dire team
with the
ban.
dual damage, and then you transition that into late game. Of course, Legion Commander also is an absolutely fantastic 4-position hero, because you've got the overwhelming odds to help clear out waves to prevent pushes and delay them, to deal a massive amount of damage in team fights, and you've got the press the attack to buff up your Sven to remove any and all CC effects on him. So Sven,
Radiant
second pick
team
up coming out from
ban.
Slaymakers, and we've got the Clockwork Goblin ban coming out from them, while Joey have opted to ban out the Viper and instead picked up the Skywrath Mage and Death Prophet. So Joey, kind of sticking to the 6.81 metagame, we've got the Skywrath Mage Death Prophet combination. While these two heroes don't synergize particularly well on their own, individually they
seconds
all add a
remaining.
lot of strength to their team. Death Prophet, very powerful solo
Dire
hero,
team
or you can even
ban.
run her in the tri-lane. You throw her at towers once you've got the exorcism up. You're able to scare away
Radiant
the enemy
team
team from
ban.
teamfights. Skywrath Mage provides a massive amount of pickoff power. Of course, both of these heroes have received nerfed in 6.82, as Death Prophet's Exorcism, the cooldown's been increased by 30 seconds, and so it increases the window of opportunity the enemy team has to capitalize when the ultimate's down. As Skywrath Mage concussive shot, the slower has been
10 seconds
nerfed or
remaining.
rescaled to now 30% at level 1 to the 40%. You now can disjoint it.
5
and the Mystic
seconds
Flare is
remaining.
2.2 seconds. And so while it doesn't seem like a significant nerf, it really impacts Skywrath Mage's versatility,
Reserve time.
as well as his viability and synergy with heroes such as the Pandarian Brewmaster. As before, with the Earth Panda Boulder Toss, it would guarantee that with the Mystic Flare, because it was 2 seconds as opposed to 2.2, so long as you timed it perfectly, so you threw out the Mystic Flare the instant they were stunned, you're guaranteed to get the full duration off, because they don't have enough time to walk out of the Mystic Flare AoE. Now, because it has been staggered out by that slight increase, there is a chance they will avoid some of that damage. It's not a significant nerf, but it does decrease his effectiveness by a small margin, since he was considered the best support hero in the game. We've now got the Faceless Void ban coming out from Slaymakers, as well as a Venomancer and a
Radiant team
Darkseer ban
pick.
coming out from Joey. So they really are sticking to this similar kind of old school meta of 6.81. The Darkseer in this case synergizes fantastically with both the Legion Commander as well as the Sven. So you've got dual to lock one person in place for the Darkseer wall to do a massive amount of damage, and you've got the Vacuum into Stormbolt that can absolutely decimate enemy teams. It's essentially a ghetto reverse polarity. And so Sven, he's been significantly buffed in this patch, because he now has the Aghanim Scepter upgrade where Sven can buff up your entire team
10
whenever he
seconds
wants that
remaining.
God strength. And so that means that Sven, while he still is fairly iffy as a
5
one position,
seconds
personally I
remaining.
think he's not too effective in that one position role, because he needs so much to be effective.
Reserve
he needs
time.
so much farm. You need to have an optimal team fight and
Dire
initiation
team
for him to
pick.
really get that damage off. Now he functions fantastically as a 2 or even as a 3, because if you've got another form of physical DPS, in this case you've got the Legion Commander, Sven going for an Aghanim Scepter provides you a massive amount of DPS for your team fights. Now we've got the Centaur War on the back coming out from Joey. And so Joey, they've realized they haven't had enough time to practice 6.82, so they're going to stick to their guns and do what they do best, which is the meta game of 6.81, the Death Ball, where you have a very powerful offlane initiator that can start these
10
fights.
seconds
You've got
remaining.
Support heroes that have a massive amount of either team fight damage or pushing capabilities.
5
so either
seconds
Skywrath Mage
remaining.
or a hero like the Shadow Shaman, they can win you these fights and then take towers. Slaymaker's now
Radiant
pick up the
team
Invoker,
pick.
and Invoker, in 6.82, the only buff that he received is the fact that Tornado is now 3 times Wex as opposed to 1+1 Pos and then times 2 Wex, so it can be considered a slight buff over to Invoker. But the biggest change to the Invoker, and the reason why he's no longer as effective as a mid lane hero, is the fact that you've got the bounty rune change. So because you're guaranteed a rune at every single rune spot every 2 minutes, Invoker loses a huge amount of his strength.
10 seconds
because
remaining.
the reason why Invoker works so well as a mid lane hero is the fact that if he goes cross Wex,
5
he can
seconds
simply
remaining.
throw out a lot of harassment damage at you using the Cold Snap, using the EMP with his right clicks, and because he's got the
Reserve
passive
time.
sustain from cross, he's able to guarantee that he can bully you out of the lane and outlast you there, get a lot more golden experience than you do from that lane, and then translate that into team fights. Now, because you're guaranteed to be able to find a rune, Invoker no longer can rely on just being able to whittle you down the lane, because you're always going to be able to fill up your bottle charges. So mid lane heroes that you want are heroes that can capitalize on the bottles. It's the reason why heroes like Viper actually have fallen out quite heavily in 8-2 in regards to being a mid hero. As a offlane hero in the solo 1v1
Dire
matchup,
team pick.
or as a tri-lane or safe lane farmer, Invoker does make a huge amount of sense. We've now got a Vengeful Spirit pickup coming out from Joey, and Vengeful Spirit, she's a hero that has received several buffs in 8-2. The most significant is the fact that a Wave of Terror now is considered a form of magic damage, so you could actually use it to cancel things like Selves, Clarities, as well as using it to prevent people from blink out by dealing damage to them. Earnest Shadows also count as damage over time as opposed to HP removal, and so Vengeful Spirit, she's a hero that usually picks up
10 seconds
Earnest Shadows,
remaining.
becomes a lot more powerful in this patch. She's also a very powerful late game hero.
5
Just
seconds
with,
remaining.
levels, she becomes quite potent because the Vengeance Aura now applies
Radiant
to the
team
enemy team
pick.
when she dies. And so Vengeful Spirit, because 8-2 does seem to favor late game engagements because of how much easier it is to come back and recover, as well as the fact that it's much more difficult to push towers early on. Vengeful, you want to pick up support heroes that do scale somewhat into the late game, and Vengeful Spirit and Skyrim
10 seconds remaining.
fantastically. So Sleigh makers have opted to pick up the Shadow Demon, and so far
5
I believe
seconds
that either the
remaining.
Sven or the Legion Commander is going to be the 4th position, excuse me. Unless if they decide to
Reserve
run a
time.
Legion Commander as an offlane hero, she actually works very well in the offlane. Because of how much damage Overwhelming Odds does, you can hang back at range, use it to snipe creeps, actually deal a huge amount of damage to their carry, as well as the supports that they happen to as little by a little
team
too close.
ban.
And once you pick up your level 6, you rotate into another lane where you can use your dual damage to start to as a lockdown to help set up the rest of your team. Otherwise, not really too sure how Slaymakers will be choosing to lane this. Sven is a very powerful roaming hero. It's one of the reasons why he used to be picked up back
Radiant
in
team
Tier 1, Tier
pick.
2 by a lot of Southeast Asian teams such as Myth Trust. Because you've got this fact that Stormbolt, it's an incredibly efficient nuke. It's an AoE 2-second stun at all levels, does a fairly huge amount of damage, and you've always got the Warcry, which can provide that critical movement speed for you or the other support heroes to be close to distance. So now we've got a Wraith King ban, as well as a Miranda ban coming up from both teams, and so they're fearful of the big bad Wraith King, especially with the lineups coming out from Joey, since they
10
have a
seconds
lineup
remaining.
that's very attrition based. They're going to outlast you in these team fights because you've got a hero like Death Prophet
5
that effectively
seconds
serves as a
remaining.
retard magnet. You have to focus the Death Prophet because she's so tanky, she deals so much damage that if you don't kill her, she's going to
Reserve
kill the rest of
time.
your team. So because you're forced to attack the Death Prophet, the rest of your team can run over you. If you completely ignore the Death Prophet, you're going to be walking into the Grave Silence, you're going to be walking into Crypt Swarm, and that's completely disregarding the amount of damage the Exes and the Spirits do. And so Death Prophet's a hero that you always have to focus fight. Very similar in essence to the Luna, and she's a hero that has a massive amount of teamfight presence because the enemy team is forced to react to her. You always have to try to kill her, and because Death Prophet usually goes for tanky items as well as maneuverability items like phase drums into something that you
10
use
seconds
it's
remaining.
very difficult to isolate and kill her. Especially with the lineup the Slaymakers have, the only way to
5
have
seconds remaining.
Death Prophet early on, before the rest of the team can come in, is if they're able to catch her out with something
Dire
like a
team
disruption into a Stormbolt duel. Duel is going to be the critical factor for Slaymakers to be able to win these fights. And it looks like Joey, they've opted to pick up the Timbersaw, and Timbersaw has been massively buffed in this patch. Firstly, because of the fact that if you do take a Tier 1 tower, at the other Tier 1 towers you receive a free fortification, so it makes it much more difficult to win the game in the early stages where Timbersaw is at its weakest. And before Timbersaw hits level 6, he's very vulnerable, so if you're able to capitalize on that and draft a very powerful
10 seconds remaining.
tri-lane, you can actually knock down his towers, starve him out of gold, and then start to win the game before
5
he comes
seconds
online.
remaining.
As well as the fact that Timbersaw has received the Aghanim Scepter upgrade, so he does get 2 chakrams. That
Reserve
means that
time.
every single core on the enemy team, they have to buy a BKB. Especially in this case, because they've got Legion Commander as well as Sven. If they decide to run them as cores, it could be supports for all I know, since Legion Commander and Sven can function very effectively as a 4. But because they're strength heroes and because they're strength melee heroes, Timbersaw eats them for lunch. Since you've got the Whirling Death, which reduces their primary stat, which in this case is strength, you're also reducing their effective HP pool. Then you've got potentially the double pure damage nuke coming out from the chakrams. So it forces all 3 cores of Slaymakers to go for BKBs, but of course Timbersaw can simply jump on the supports and kill them instantly, so that makes them incredibly powerful. As well as the fact that the offlane has been balanced for both sides, so Dire offlane is no longer horrifically weak compared to the Radiant offlane, and to the Radiant advantage of having these stronger lanes, stronger lanes in particularly the offlane, as well as the mid lane for the case of Tinker, as well as having, in exchange for having the Dire easy access to Roshan, has been balanced out. So we've got a lone Druid pickup coming out from Slaymakers. So it looks like we're going to be seeing what looks like a 3-position lone Druid and 2-position Invoker in the mid lane. And we're either going to be seeing Legion Commander or Sven as the 4th position, with the Shadow Demon being the 5. Over on Joey, most likely going to be what looks like a Death Prophet and a tri-lane Timbersaw, potentially mid, and Centaur Warren in the off-lane. Since Death Prophet, she does work very well in the tri-lane, and they don't have enough setup for the Centaur Warren to be viable in that tri-lane situation. Timbersaw needs solo experience to be effective, whereas Death Prophet, because she provides such a massive amount of damage and a huge amount of pushing power, when she hits 6, she can run her in that tri-lane. And so it should be interesting to see how both teams decide to lane this. So quick recap for those of you just joining us, I'm FortyeniN Community Shoutcaster for the UGC League Season 2. We're loading into the Eastern Invite Best of 2 series. This is game number 1 between Slaymakers and Joey. So I'm going to quickly introduce the players from both teams. Over on Slaymakers, Monty, rotating over to the top lane. Looks like it is going to be a core position Legion Commander. She's starting out with what appears to be solo safe lane items. We've got Cassius Clay, going to be what looks like either the 3 or the 1 positions. They do, as it could be perhaps a tri-lane lone druid. A Squirtle, going to be what looks like a 2-position Invoker, massive amount of stats up on him to mitigate Invoker's biggest weakness, which is lack of base damage. Gwyfin, going to be the Span, looks like he is going to be a 4-position Span as he has picked up Sentry Wards. And Damiao, going to be the 5-position Shadow Demon. You've got the Shadow Demon Span combinations of Disruption set up with Stormbolt. But while I say that, over on the boys from Joey, Megalomania, their captain, leading the charge as what looks like the 4-position Vengeful Spirit. The standard Insidu going to be the 5-position Skywrath Mage.
30 seconds
and
to
Venge, they
battle.
both can fluctuate between 4 or 5. It's just in this case, Vengeful Spirit scales a little bit better. I've got that standard Nicotic going to be what looks like a mid-lane Death Prophet, since she has been pulled a fair amount of regen. Orange is going to be the off-lane Timbersaw, as it looks like he's going to be rotating over to the top lane. And Leaf, so we are going to be seeing what looks like a tri-lane Centaur Warrior, but immediately pings are coming out and wards in the field. Rune will be spawning in 7 seconds, and the new rune system is going to be quite significant. We've got some
The battle
lane
begins
switching
for
happening.
good and
Well,
all.
at least the bear is leading the charge from now. Bounty Rune going to be picked up by Oranges, and it looks like he's going to be left alone against the Lone Druid, so a great pickup the Lone Druid as he functions a lot more effectively against the Tempest Sword and a lot of other offlane heroes, particularly the Tide or the Centaur Warrior. Gwyfin, double damage rune, he's sitting around it for now. Megalomania hasn't spotted out the rune, so it looks like he's going to be picking that up. But while I say that, immediate D-Ward coming up from him. Sven does pick up that double damage. Looks like he was scattered up by Megalomania. Megalomania is actually going to be very careful right now. If Gwyfin catches him out, especially with potential support rotating in, but Megalomania should be able to escape for now. One of the biggest weaknesses of Sven is and the same weakness of the Vengeful Spirit really is the fact that they're both very slow heroes that have a very short range nuke. Looks like I'm actually experiencing a little bit of lag. Hopefully it should stabilize soon enough. Over in the top lane. Oranges left alone against Cassius Clay. Cassius Clay should be having a fairly easy matchup against the Timbersaw, because Timbersaw wins matchups where he can rely on being able to constantly get in their face and use the Whirling Death to trade very effectively, and he's got the reactive arm to prevent us from trading as effectively. In this case, it looks like he actually opted for a much more passive build. So usually when you're in a 1v1 matchup, you immediately want to go for the Whirling Death so that you can trade hits quite effectively and go for last hits. In this case, because he knows that there's the bear there, he can't go for the Whirling Death because he needs to get the reactive armor online ASAP. And he could have actually looked to have picked up the early point in Timber Chain just in case he was against the tri-lane. So a lot of movement happening over in the bottom lane. And Lenti, he's going to be the tri-lane farmer. Not the biggest fan of this. In this case, they've got the concussive shot to set up for it, but Sidhu hasn't even skilled it yet. So Monty going to be backing off. So it's going to be a safe lane Legion Commander, or at least a tri-lane Legion Commander, so the 1 position. And Monty's going to be eating a fair amount of damage. Legion Commander fares fairly well against what is it? Another name catches up. Stormbolt catches up 1. Actually, looks like catches up 2. Lantief goes with a double land. He gets first blood very quick. Going over there now. Gwyfin eats another arcane bolt. The owl poop's coming out from Sidhu, doing a fair amount of work. But over in the mid lane, we take a look in terms of Golden Steel. His Squirtle being heavily outlaned by Nicotic, as the base damage difference in conjunction with the Crypt Swarm, even with the Forge Spirits as well as the Exile points, not really going to be enough. It looks like he's actually standing over his Forge Spirit over to mid lane. So one of the advantages of the Cross Exile Invoker, I was talking about how Invoker can't really contest runes or control runes. If you're Cross Exile, you can use the Forge Spirit to just deny the rune. So game of Scorched Earth, you say, if I can't have this, neither can you. And while you're not necessarily getting any benefit from it, at least you're starving them out. And Death Prophet here is heavily dependent on maintaining rune control. Looks like we've actually got a disconnect, so it's good to know I'm not the only one suffering a fair amount of lag. Hopefully it should rectify itself. And Orange's Boot's already up on him. Actually looking to prioritize the Timber Chain, so this is a fairly standard build, especially in this case, because as you see, the Timber Chain's actually done a fair amount of damage over the Cassius Clay. And since he's a ranged hero, he has to put himself at fair risk to be able to go in for those last hits. Or at least in range for Orange, to be able to go in with the Timber Chain. Looks like he's actually done a substantial amount of damage to the bears. Somebody called the SPCA, we're seeing some animal abuse. And Cassius Clay, until he hits level 6, he's actually fairly vulnerable to the Timbersaw. So experience is going to matter a huge amount. If Orange is able to pick up the Chakram before Cassius Clay gets his true form, he's dead. Tempest will immediately go on and throw out the Chakram, as long as he's got enough mana to follow up with the chain, should be enough to bring him down. Monty actually looks like he opted for an early point and moment of courage. I actually dislike the skill build, especially in this case when you know there's a massive amount of CC coming out from the Vengeful Spirit as well as from the Centaur. You want that early point and press the attack, so that if one of your supports happen to get called out, you can use the press the attack to immediately reposition them before the Hoof Stomp comes in. Because if they're called out with the Hoof Stomp, with Centaur Warrior and with the double edge ready, they're going to be taking the fall, especially since the Shadow Demon, fairly squishy. Sven's a bit more durable, but even then, because he's so slow, he's going to be eating a lot of right clicks on the retreat. So you always want to make sure you have that early point and press the attack. Could be looking to pick up a second point of it now, but in this case, because you're up against a tri-lane, you really want that overwhelming odds maxed out as soon as possible. It does an absolutely obscene amount of damage in the try-v-try situation, especially if you happen to get all 3 heroes. With the creep wave there. Necrotic over the mid lane, having a fairly easy time up against Esquirtle. As Esquirtle has low base damage, is Invoker's biggest weakness, is he's an incredibly greedy mid lane hero. And so it's the reason why you don't really see him picked up all too much in 8-1 in that mid lane role. You usually see him run as a safe lane farmer with a lot of setup heroes like the Shadow Demon, or with the Faceless Void, so you can drop down the Sunstrikes to get easy kills. Invoker in the mid lane, he's too greedy to really be effective, because A, he can't really rune control. He can deny runes through Scorched Earth by using his lavas, his Forge Spirits, but because he can't really bottle them, since Invoker doesn't really want to go for a bottle, you can't really gank the other lanes very effectively. If you go cross Wex, you have very little lane control and very little lane presence, and so it means that you're going to get quite heavily out CS and out denied, and so that shuts you down, since Invoker's a semi-carry. He's a late game oriented hero where you need a huge amount of golden experience to really be effective. He usually hits his peak around level 17, and so you need to find enough space for him to get that much golden experience. So it looks like we might actually have a computer crash, so we are going to be paused for a little bit longer. And so in this case, because the Squirtle's been facing so much pressure from Necrotic, Necrotic should be able to get that early game advantage and be able to take his tier 1 before Invoker can really do anything. And once you take that mid tier 1 tower, you open up a lot more ganking pathways for your team, so you can now rotate in through there. And especially with the changes, it makes it much more easier to rotate in through and gank the other lanes. Of course, Roshan has actually moved over, so tier 1 mid is no longer as important. Now the offlane tier 1 is incredibly important for Roshan, but the fact that it opens up the map, it means that Invoker's forced to hang around here. Unless he wants to be at risk of being ganked, makes it a lot more difficult for him to come on in. And if you're able to shut down Invoker, prevent him from finding farm, especially across Exiled Invoker, it's heavily dependent on having a fair amount of farm in the first 10 minutes to make up a weaker teamfight presence. It makes it a lot more difficult. Since the Squirtle, the biggest advantage of a cross Exiled Invoker is it makes up for Invoker's biggest weakness, which is his inability to really control the mid lanes because he has such a low base damage, and his inability to solo gank is cross Wex Invoker. So cross Exiled Invoker, once you pick up the Yule Scepter, you have a massive amount of a burst pickoff power, since you Yule Cycling them up, drop the Meatball, and then Deafening Blast on top of it, or you could even Sunstrike, depending on if you've skilled Wex yet. So it should be fairly interesting to see how Squirtle decides to do this, especially since Hand of Midas actually has been fairly significantly nerfed in 8.2. Since the way a comeback gold works now, although as I say that 8.2b has just dropped, which has decreased the amount of a comeback golden experience you receive. I believe it's a lot lower now because it's based on ratio as opposed to the disparity. So before it was based on the net worth of your team compared to their team, and it would give you an absolutely ridiculous amount of gold if you're able to end a spree, or even find a kill on them. And so the reason why Hand of Midas is bad is it's counterintuitive. It gives you a lot more net worth, so if you happen to die, you're giving the enemy team a lot more gold, a lot more experience, and potentially making it much more easier for them to come back. So that means that Invoker in 8.2 most likely going to be opting more for a much more aggressive early game build, where you go for the Yule Scepter, or you can even opt for something like a early phase drum into something like a 4-star, so you can play a lot more aggressively. The advantage of the Yule Scepter is it gives you that immediate pickoff power, and it gives you movement speed, which is across Exile Invoker's biggest weakness. Since Cross Exile Invoker also, without the points of Wex, is actually fairly slow, about 280 movement speed. It's the reason why you usually see Phase Boots picked up on Cross Exile Invoker, even though Treads does synergize a lot better in terms of right-click potential. So Monty as a Legion Commander, like the Sven, that both of these heroes are going to be rushing for Blink Dagger as soon as possible. Legion Commander, he might actually opt to go for something like a Shadow Blade, but Blink Dagger is vastly superior just because you've got that instant pick-off capacity. And of course, the biggest weakness of Legion Commander in this matchup is you're going to have to deal with the Stampede, which is going to make it very difficult for you to be able to get that duel off, even if you blink on top of them. If the Centaur's quick enough with his reflexes, Lentif can press R fast enough, and yell at his team to run the hell the other way. Might be able to create enough distance to prevent Monty from being going for the duel. Otherwise, Megalomania simply swaps out the hero that you're dueling, or even swaps into Legion Commander, so the rest of his team can beat on Monty while he runs towards them. Looks like both teams slowly starting to lose their sanity, as they are waiting for Sidu to return. Pardon me. So while that happens, just a little bit of friendly banter happening between both teams. I believe both teams actually are Australian for the Eastern Invite. There also are a fair number of Southeast Asian teams from the Philippines as well as from Singapore playing in this. But in this particular matchup, looks like they are both Australian teams, so it makes it very easy for both teams as both games will be run over on the Australian server. Hopefully things should be resuming fairly shortly, but while we take a quick look at gold experience, while I say that, Sidu does return to a very slight lead, only about 100 experience. Fairly negligible. In this case, it's going to be attributed to the fact that actually it's the Dire side that have the experience lead. So even though they got the kill, because the other three cores have a lot more experience, have a lot more last hits compared to Joey, since their train lane actually hasn't found all too much farm, they do have that slight experience lead, but gold lead should be going in favor of Joey. So it looks like Sidu is back, and we haven't actually talked about this. This is something I should have talked about earlier. Very good ward placements and unconventional safety ward. So in this case, because you're placing, usually safety wards are placed either here or there, or sorry, rather here or there, and so the sentry ward placement is going to be placed there, and the off chance that happen to put it there, which is the greedy pub ward, because it gives you vision of both the rune as well as any incoming gank pathways. So placing it there means that while I don't think that's actually, in this case I think it actually does block the pull spot, it also provides you vision. Usually you don't actually want to block the pull spot, you want to place it there or there, so you see when they go for the pull, one of their supports is missing, you can play a lot more aggressively. Monty, level 3, now he's opted to go for a point and press the attack. So that's on the off chance, and the supports get called out, you can use it to immediately bail them out. The fact that you can instantly purge off any form of CC, similar to the Embolic Shield, makes a huge difference in these early engagements. You keep your supports alive, especially since you've got the defensive ability with the disruption as well. It makes it a lot more difficult, but we've got smoke rotation coming in from Gwyfin as well as Damiel. Really good recognition coming out from the support players from Sleigh makers, as they know that they can afford to leave Legion Commander alone now. She's got level 3, she's got at one point the overwhelming odds to CS from a distance, she's got to press the attack to bail herself out if they're not able to correctly chain their CC. Looks like they could even be rotating to go over to the top lane as well, as you want to shut down Timbersaw and shut him down as quickly as possible before he hits level 6. Once Timbersaw gets 6 and he has the Arcane Boots, it's very difficult to deal with because you can instantly pop one of your supports. Looks like pings are coming out, as they might have actually spawned them out. Smoke does break, and Necrotic, good reaction coming up from him. Looks like he's going for a very early magic wand. So not actually opting to go for boots, which is a little bit surprising. Death off in the mid lane, actually opting to go for a bit more unconventional build. It will be interesting to see if he decides to go for that point over in the Exorcism at 6, or if he opts to go for another point in Witchcraft. We have been seeing a lot more points in Witchcraft at level 6, just to provide yourself a much stronger lane presence, similar to the Queen of Pain going for 2 points in the Shadow Strike, and opting to delay her ultimate until level S7, level 8. So similar sense, it gives you a lot more lane control, but of course the drawback is it really cripples your ganking power, as well as your team fight ability. What I would call that throws out the cheeky Crypt Storm, but the Sunstrike Deathbox actually misses. Stormbolt flies a little bit too late. Gwyfin leading the charge over on Necrotic, but Necrotic might be a closer distance in time. So having a little bit of a lag over mine. Throws out Retaliatory Crypt Storm, Damiel. Now caught on the wrong side of the map. He's going to be a little bit careful now. Throwing out Shadow Poison, but actually going to be taking a death, as the Crypt Storm is on mine. Necrotic, Cold Snap wasn't there in time. Actually, he's got enough mana for one more Cold Snap, because actually look to go for another kill in the squad if he's not too careful. It's an absolute disaster coming out from Sleigh makers. They came in, but good reaction coming in from Megalomania, following him in with that magic missile, as well as some good response coming out from Necrotic. We have a look at the fight recap. Handy little features now be added in, so it looks like 302 gold, as well as 180 experience. Now going in favor of the rating side. While I say that, Sidu actually cleaned up Monty, so concussive shot into the Arcane Bolt, move stomp double edge. Good work being made there. Oranges now picked up level 6. And another change that does benefit the Timbersaw is the fact that Bloodstone has been changed. So now, as opposed to going for point booster into Perseverance, it's now Soul Booster into the Soul Ring. So you've got a much easier build-up, and Soul Ring actually does a fair amount of work over on a hero like a Timbersaw, because you've got the reactive armor to eliminate the HP loss. Necrotic could actually look to go for a kill. The Squirtle stands his ground, throws out the Cold Snap, Necrotic actually eating a few tower shots, and could actually be a retaliatory kill, especially with the Sunstrike. It doesn't look like he doesn't have enough mana. Magic Missile there from Megalomania, and he cleans it up. Throws out the Hell over his corpse. Looks like we are going to be seeing fairly standard 3-3 build coming up from him. Oranges going over and cast his Clay. So Muhammad Ali, fight like a butterfly, sting like a bee. So far stinging like a bee without all the venom over in the bear. Although I suppose it doesn't really count, it's coming from the bear, not from the hero itself. Oranges looking for blood, but caught out with the entangle. while that happens, Gwyfin comes in from the side, catches him out the storm bolt, and he's smacking him up now. Just sidesteps the chakra and cuts him down. Cassius clear. He wins his first ring round over in the ring. Two heroes now over in the mid lane. It's Damiel. Baby guy, babysitting a Squirtle. There with the disruption to bodyguard him, just in case Nicolic decides to play a little bit more aggressive. And Nicolic opting to go for what looks like the fairly standard Death Prophet build, at least in 6.81. We actually choose to prioritize the Witchcraft, and you only go for 3 points in the...
Oh, that's not good for the Radiant.
It's just for efficiency, since you don't necessarily need the 4th point. It doesn't give you a huge increase, whereas having the extra movement speed and the reduced mana cost of CD...
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Oranges, now rotating back over to the top lane, just trying to find some farm while we can. The biggest weakness of the Timbersaw, similar in this case to the Lone Druid, because they're both very greedy offline heroes, they need a fair amount of farm to really get hit. Oranges throws his chakra, misses, Cassius Clay, quick on his feet, sidesteps that one. Oranges caught out once again with the entangle, he's going to defeat to death. Cassius Clay going to Pound Town over again. The Sunstrike is there, unfortunately not going to be there in time. Oranges is barely going to limp himself from out there. The Chain is there, and Megalomania now going to go leech some experience over the top lane. It's a really good plays coming up from Cassius Clay, turning it around for his team to come. Gonna eat the Shadow Poison as well as the Cold Snap. Not gonna be enough damage. Those are big little crypts all over the Squirtle. Squirtle, gotta be a bit careful now. Exorcism is online from Nicolic, so they can't really afford to man push, but to man fight out at the same time, Nicolic can't afford to really dive tower, especially with the threat of Cold Snap as well as Disruption. You really don't want to be eating tower shots, and you're also being hit with Cold Snap, but he's decided to dive now, throws the crypts on the Squirtle. Got a little bit too greedy. Had Butcher backed away a lot earlier. Gwyfin, now put over the magic missile, that's gonna be 2. Starts on Stormbot over and standing Nicolic, picks up the Bounty Room, stamping between force with his Megalomania. Random through there, Nicolic runs him down the crypt wall. They find 2 kills, White over the bottom lane, Monty, caught him with the Ancient Seal, no pressy attack available. Lentiev says no to racism, cuts him down with the double edge. Blink Dagger now online. This is an extremely farmed Centaur Warren. If we have a look at the fight recap, massive amount of gold now going in favor of the Radiant side. The Squirtle now coming over to the top lane, so he's really been shut down. The Invoker pickup, a little bit too greedy. Over for Joey. Over for Sleigh making, sorry, looks like Joey. Oranges, Timber chains himself, unfortunately goes to the wrong tree, caught the entangle. Chain coming up from him, gets smacked down. So retaliatory kills now going in favor of SM. And of course, because this is A2, comeback is now
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Although Oranges, because he's the one that's had all the death on his team, no spree gold up on them. If they can kill any of the heroes that have a spree, if they're able to pop Nicolic, big fat cash pinata. Of course, the issue is how the hell do you kill a Death Prophet at this far on somebody else? Level 9 to battle level
all alone in the world.
And now she's about to take a free tower. One of the things Nicolic can actually do is you want to stand as close to a tower as possible when you're using Exorcism. The ghosts that have to fly up to you.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. It has no arms to defend itself.
It increases the amount of time it takes.
Dire's middle tower now belongs to the Aegis.
That could be a critical factor. Megalomania once again cleans up Cassie's blade. Squirtle comes and tries to defend his tower, but Nicolic with a double damage. She says, look how big my hands are. Throwing out those right clicks, and Squirtle has to be careful. Throws at the cold snap. Nicolic could choose to dive. He's got enough mana. For the Crypt Storm, he does pops the stick charges, but Squirtle, immediate panic self coming up from him. We've got Gwyfin coming up from the side, but he's not going to really be able to do enough damage. Poor old Sven, actually fairly useless this game so far, just because Sven is so slow to really be able to go in for the killing blow, so he throws out the Stormbolt, not going to be able to run down Nicolic. Especially since he got Brown Boots, while Nicolic has the Witchcraft and Face Boots. It looks like he is going for Face Drop. So Gwyfin, he's a walking stun bot. The rest of his team, he can for the few right clicks. But because his first few rotations have been an absolute disaster, hasn't really recovered too nicely. It's going to be difficult for Sven to be effective in these fights. Same thing goes for Leech Commanders, a hero you really don't want to be playing from behind. The nice thing about this is they're now leaving her alone. So she has picked up Duel. And because there is a fair amount of spree gold over Nicolic, while I say that, Stampede being used, Blink Dagger being shown over Lentiev, a fantastic reflex coming up from the Squirtle. Caught out the Grave Silence over on 3. Nicolic now runs on Lentiev, hoops up left over the Squirtle. Gwyfin throws a Stormbolt over Lentiev, creating some space. Pipes in space, creative. While that happens, Force Spirit. Little Force Spirit that could, throwing out those right clicks over Nicolic. Using his armor, Oranges now comes and joins the party a little bit too late. Decides to back himself off, so great reflexes coming out. Well, they say that Monty could be taking a fall. As C2 and Megalomania, the 4 and the 5 still went down to 3. Things are looking fairly grim. Over for Slaymaker. As at this point, Cassius Clay, with the amount of farm that he's got, he better be doing some squats because he's going to be carrying the rest of his team. He's going to be the true 1 position from now. And the Invoker, because he's naturally going to be that 2 position, since he's much greedier than the Leech Commander. Monty, he's going to be essentially serving as the ultimate initiator in this case, because you've got the duel, you can lock people down. Even if you throw your own life away, if you can lock down the
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Right, that damage. Well, Xander, Cassie's play, whatever, quick move, Stormball, that flies over at 2. Good reflex coming back, overwhelming odds flies, Cassie's play, limping away over in true form. Oranges, a little bit too deep, Orange is the new black, says Monty, catches another duel, cuts him down, duel damage not going ahead. And Cassie's play, 1-2-1, I believe he's actually got every single kill for his team, bar 1, so good work coming out from him. They are able to take out the Radiant, and they are able to actually deny that tail once. They do actually prevent a fair amount of gold going in favor of Team Joey. But Sidu, he wants to be picking up his arcane boots. Looks like he's actually going for what looks like an early 4-star or an early Yules. In this case, most likely going to be a 4-star. Provide that reposition tower. 4-star does a huge amount of work against both the Legion Commander and the Sven. Because there's melee heroes and they have fairly limited time on target, Legion Commander does have the overwhelming odds in the phase movement speed. But because she's actually fairly squishy, since she hasn't really been having a great start over in that bottom lane, she actually packs away now. It's got bottle charges, so this is another huge change because you now have both runes happening.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
You
Run,
want to
little
actually
bottom
have 2
tower.
bottles in the
Run.
team. To ensure that you can capitalize. The team that's able to capitalize on rune control actually benefits a lot more. We've actually got a bit of neutral stacking happening over here.
Dire's bottom tower
Well,
is under attack.
Since it now provides you a lot more EHP for your team, because you've now got 6 bottle charges operating for your team as opposed to just 3, if you're able to control both. You could actually be seeing a resurgence in dual lanes because you want to contest runes a lot more now. Cass as well. Looks like he's going to be going for this fairly standard Radiance build over the Lone Druid. Oranges trying to do his best to recover. Looks like he's going to be doubling back all that sort of. It provides him all the mana he needs for the early stage of the game. Looks like he's actually doubling back for the second point over reactive armor just to try to stay in lane. So usually as Timber Saw, you want to max out the Timber Chain and the Whirling Death as soon as possible. You really only want 1 point reactive armor, if force feed, you want to have to go for it. The nice thing about this,
Dire has fortified its structures.
against Lone Druid and lane.
Radiant's middle tower is under
charge.
attack.
He is going for the mech.
That's not
so another
gonna
huge
hold.
change in 8-2 is the fact that heroes like Viper and Razor no longer are viable mech carries because it now costs 225 mana. And with the mana cost increase, he's like, oh, I say that, Meow. One of the 2-man boost up as well, so Mystic Flat drop down. They're now also being called out. And Monty, he just stands there and watches. No pressing attack being used. Arcane all playing as ultimate Colic, has a Crypto to follow up. Actually changes targets, goes in over in the Scuttle, and lets you catch them down with double edge, follows up the rooftop and lets you
defend itself.
really make a huge
Dire's bottom tower has fallen. It was a
Mech is now
valiant
picked up. He starts TP on out as Damien. Actually, a bit unfortunate. He threw out the Shadow Poison there. If he threw it to the left, it would have actually had vision. So
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Could actually be taking a death now. Oranges comes in, catches him out with the Timber Chain as well as the Welling Death. He's got the Chakram. Unfortunately, didn't throw out the Chakram before. With the Chakram damage, would have actually been enough to go for the kill. Cassie's play, doing split pushing. The Lone Druid doing what he does best. Phase Boots now picked up at Oranges. He's actually got to be very careful. No more mana for a Timber Chain, although he does have the Arcane Boots coming off cooldown. Megalomania waiting in the wings. So Megalomania as well picking up a very early Staff of Wizardry, so we could be seeing a double 4-staff build coming out from both the supports. Although that being said, you're always going to hope that it's a Dagon. Other Shadows being picked up on Scarlet Mage, it actually does drastically increase his magic damage output. So the Ancient Seal amplifies magic damage, and of course Other Shadows does deal magic damage when you really do the soul release on enemy heroes. Especially since it has been reworked, there's no more HP removal. That's going to be picked up as support, so helping Megalomania stay on top of his ward duties. But in terms of map control, very aggressive ward being placed there. So this is ward you use if you want to threaten the enemy tier 2. You can see if anyone's hiding over here firstly. You can also see if TP rotation's coming in. Makes it difficult to maneuver between tier 2s over the bottom lane as well as the mid lane.
Radiant's middle tower
Oranges
is under attack.
really lagging behind the rest
Radiant
of the team.
structures are
But because they're
fortified.
creating so much
Don't
space,
waste time hitting them.
it's not too big of a deal.
Dire's top
Because
tower is under
Sleigh
attack.
makers, they're not going to be going for BKBs anytime soon.
Radiant
Timber
should
Saw's
really
always
do
gonna be
something
relevant.
about that
Even if he
middle
doesn't have
tower.
all too much farm, just with levels, with the fact that you can throw out that Chakram and deal a massive
Dire's
amount of
top
burst
tower
damage,
is under
it'll be very
attack.
difficult for
Oh,
Monty to be able
that's
to do
got
anyone
worked.
else besides
The Radiant
He
should
wants
really
to
do something
ideally
about that
do
middle
a couple
tower.
before he gets the exorcism off so his team can burst down.
The
death
Dire's
bottom.
top tower is
Of
doing
course,
its
in doing
best,
so, he's
but
going to
it
be eating the
doesn't
Willing
look
Death from
good.
Chakram. It's going to be very
Radiant's
difficult
middle
for
tower
Monty
is
to
under
run this
attack.
Orange is going to be eating that overwhelming odds like a champ.
Dire's top
Actually,
tower
once
has
this starts
fallen.
going for the duel, Orange is immediately Timber Chains out. Could be enough though, the Sunstrike flying through. And Monty, good plays coming up for him. This is the power of the Legion Commander. She plays incredibly aggressively, similar to a Life Stealer. She runs at you, and if you don't run
The
away
Radiant's
fast enough,
bottom
she'll
tower
catch you.
has seen better
Touch it.
days.
The Knight feels able to do this with the open moves.
but it
While the closer distance
Dire's
would go
structures
on
are
odds towards
fortified,
phase moves.
just like me.
So we could be seeing something like phase drop.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Or most likely, because Monty's holding the gold
Fortified.
phase and the Blink Dagger
Booyah.
would do a fair amount of work. But in this case, because Renteef is always going to be initiating on you, you might want to use
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
There does take a force of
Dire's
300
top
gold being
tower
fed by
is under
Cass's
attack.
deck. Looks like Necrotic was the one that was able to find that, and Necrotic is absolutely stacked. Unfortunately, he doesn't have enough mana to be able to use the Crit Form and a
Dire's top tower
So
has
this
fallen.
is the A2 change really impacting these durable cores. It's the reason why heroes like like Viper as well as Razor can no longer rush a mech, because they won't have mana to use the mech and all the abilities. So, and with the addition of Crimson Guard, we're going to be seeing Crimson Guard in much more common build order on these durable ranged heroes if they are picked up. Although Death Prophet, because she's an int hero and because she has a huge amount of mana to work with, mech still is going to be a suitable core item on her if you need a mech carrier for your team. Megalomania and scouts out Monty as well as Squirtle, does reveal himself, goes over on the Squirtle, Renteef holding onto his Blink. Actually looks like his Blink was on cooldown from the Forward Spirit, good reaction coming in. Sunstrike flies out, misses. Stormbolt does catch out too, good Stormbolt coming out from Glyphon, but he immediately backs himself off, there's no follower. And Monty, tear trickles down his cheek, overwhelming odds was there, just wasn't enough, couldn't get close distance going for the duel. So far, only 20 damage. Because 8-2 does tend to favor games going later since you do have that comeback mechanic, heroes like Legion Commander do become a lot more dangerous. Even if they aren't able to find farms, they're able to find a few good kills, they're able to find the damage. Monty, just to prioritize survivability. Another great item for the Legion Commander, especially in this case because you're playing from behind, is the Blade Mail. You pop the Blade Mail before you duel, and with the maxed out Moment of Courage,
By
you
the
guarantee
gods,
you're going to
the
win that duel
Dire's
against
bottom
the
tower
target.
doesn't even have arms to defend
Unless
itself.
the rest of the team
What a
burst it
brave
down, but in that
tower.
case, they do eat a fair amount of return damage, so it makes it much more easier for your team to be able to recover. Looks like Orange is going to be going for that Bloodstone, so that may, if he dies, he's at least able to provide that golden mana, as that HP and mana for the rest of the team. He's going in through the new Juke path. He's hiding there for now because he can instantly clear out trees with the Chakram. Nothing to fear. He can use that to kind of pop out of nowhere, help out the rest of his team. Necrotic leading the charge, really sucks him down hard. And so Death Prophet's now, she's reached her peak in terms of mid-game presence. At this point, all she really needs now is level 16. She can choose to continue to scale by picking up items like a Shiva's Guard and Hard Taras. But as far as the first 30 minutes concerned, Death Prophet, she's hit her power spike. And Joey, while they are going for a much more 6.81 style lineup, they're making it work. Slaymakers, because they weren't able to shut down Necrotic, and because they went for the greedy mid lane Invoker, Necrotic is having an absolute ball of a game. There does now have Radiance, and the nice thing about casting Sleigh is with that Radiance, it doesn't freeze him instantly. Stormbolt is why catches out too. Stampede's being used as well. Chakra unfortunately not going to do it all too much in this case. Renteef throws out the double edge, now he's very low. Glyphon comes and caught out the Graves kill. Glyphon's got to be incredibly careful now. Chakra flies through once again. The Coxon's around into Squirtle. He pops. Glyphon actually runs back into the Mystic Flare. Takes the death. Casts his play. Doing what he can against Origins. Origins backs himself off. Dual now being used as a Necrotic. But the Exorcism goes to them. Monty. My friend, you're not going to be the stand against the Necrotic, especially with the Ghost there. Somebody needs an Exorcist, and it's not, unfortunately. It looks like a Squirtle with that buyback is able to end a huge amount of free gold. And with that, he suddenly gains a huge influx of gold. So we have a look at the fight recap. Because he was able to end that spree, 1,650 gold going in favor of Slaymakers. The comeback is real.
Radiant's middle
And now
tower is
Slaymakers
under
put
attack.
himself in a much better position than they were
That's not
before.
gonna
There
hold.
still is about a 3,000 experience lead in favor of Team Joey, as well as about 7,500 gold. But Squirtle looks like he's going to be going
Radiant
for the
should
Zoot
really
build,
do
a very
something about
old
that
school
middle
Fox
tower.
Invoker build. The nice thing about this is it provides you a huge amount of pushing presence. The drawback is level 1 Necronomicon is actually a fairly inefficient pickup because you don't want to feed away that gold. It doesn't give you enough impact for you to be used to go for kills, unless in this case you've got the double fortune move as well as holding that, so you just chain lock a single target down. So this is another Cross Exalt build I didn't really mention earlier. Has tended to fall out in favor since the 6.82 now is prioritizing fights more. The Necronomicon minions, they don't provide you that much team fight unless you've got heroes to be able to help set it up. The Invoker works well because you've got the Cold Snap, but because the emphasis has been moving away from the Death Ball push, Oranges actually is going to take the Death Ball Raiders Ball, more say that. Necronomicon not as powerful as it used to be, especially since it feeds huge amount of gold. Caster's Play though, he's got to be careful. Bear's actually caught up the Ancient Seal. The poor Bear can't even talk, but he should be the return on that. And looks like the Courier is kind of just sitting there. Just chilling. Megalomania put up the smoke, decides to break it. Opting for a few points over in the Vengeance Aura. The first point does actually give a fair amount of base damage for the rest of your team. Joey, there's a lot of spree gold on their heroes. So SM, all they have to do is smack these heroes down. Blink Dagger is online for Monty, so he's opting to go for that Blink Initiation build. He's opting to actually go in over on Necrotic. Necrotic, if he's very quick, overwhelming ult flies out, you'll set to there. This is what I'm talking about. Wyvern tries to storm up, but now the Exorcism has been dropped. You gotta back off. You can't stand the ground against him. Necrotic, he knows this. He's got neck charges, he's got effective HP through the roof. He just runs down Monty. Second critical got fly, but the disruption is there. Ghost up there doing enough damage. Letty comes in with a day now, smacks him down. How dare you? Trying to save your team. Megalomania, catch that Wyvern, swap into stun, into the Exorcism goes. Necrotic gets 2, so completely done. All across the nice thing of this is the fact that Exorcism is going to wear off, so they shouldn't be able to have the Exorcism to push down the tower. Since SM, they heroes are low level enough, they should be back in time. But the golden flux going in favor of critical. So 1,200 gold, now going in favor of players over Joey. We'll have a look at that one. Cassie's plays the only one that's keeping up. The nice thing is Letty, he's actually been having a fairly difficult time as well as Oranges. So Cassie's Clay,
Dire's bottom tower
Squirtle,
is
they are
under
doing their
attack.
best to try to salvage this game. They are going in now over Classic K. Cassie's Clay is going to be taking full. Letty actually looked like he went for the blade now. It makes it even more difficult for him to turn his tower up against a big man. So once again, gold going in favor of Joey. Oranges, just using the Shark from the farmer before spirits. He's got mana through his roof with the arcane boots as well. Sovereign coming off cooldown fairly short. Definitely blast, unfortunately being completely whipped.
That's not good for the Radiant.
And the Shadow Poison is only out orange. Since it does provide vision, we've got a critical item flying in. So
Radiant's top
tower
tower is under attack.
The Economical 3 has been popped. Both teams are starting to duke this out. I'm going to try to hold on to that tier 2. Not really too sure if this is the best idea. Chaos Meter be dropped in Lethal. Ops, Letty. One more Rifle's going to be enough to bring down Monty. One go for the dual damage, not going to be there. Magic Missile flies out. Lost the Missile Flare, but Wyvern runs through. Sven almost dies as he died alone. Able to make it out, but the Squirtle unfortunately pays the price in the economy. Actually, can find more spree gold. Damiel leading the charge, throws out that Shadow Poison. Oranges. Looks like he wanted to go for the Bloodstone. Got a bit panicky, so maybe not. Duel is now over on Monty, and Megalomania's going to be taking a fall from Monty. Finds that retaliatory duel damage. Cassie Clay picks up the double damage room, goes into the range form, says, sit back there, I got this one. Runs over and Insidu. No TP available. Actually, he does have the TP, but it's going to be very wary.
Radiant's middle tower is under
attack. Force going to pull that down. Nicholas pops the Exorcism, goes over and Cassie Clay. And Insidu, he doesn't really care if he dies at this point. He's going to trade in exchange for Cassie Clay. It's going to be enough for him.
The Radiant should really do something about that middle tower.
Actually gets forced up forward, and Orange steals a kill with the Timber Chain. So good response coming out for him. Nicolic holding on, standing on by his support to make sure he doesn't take full. Finds a unfortunately got a little bit too greedy. And with that, once again, more gold going in favor of Joey. And a bit unfortunately, Nicolic able to find that spree gold. So with that spree gold and with that fight, 4.2k. So these cells are a null talisman, especially the golden tower. Nicolic now has a Shiva's Guard. And once that Shiva's Guard comes online, very difficult for Playmakers to really be able to bring down the death prophets. You've got that negative 40% attack speed there. And since Legion Commander opted for phase as opposed to treads, and because she's a strength hero, doesn't have much agi to work with, fairly low attack speed relative to other heroes. So I am having a little bit of lag, I do apologize. Servers are being a little bit finicky today. Oranges. Looks like they know that water's there, but unfortunately the Sentry was dropped a little too close to our chance, so just barely out of range. And Bounty Runes be sitting there and neglected for a little while. Megalomania says, hey, let's Ward Bunny, picks it up. Find some free bottom charges. Forge Spirit, doing really cheeky right clicks. And to do with what looks like double 4-stars, up on the 4 and the 5 of Joey, makes it incredibly difficult for SM to find kills in the supports. In teamfight, you want to prioritize picking off their backline, because the backline heroes are the ones that usually have the vast majority of the CC. It makes it difficult for their frontline heroes to be able to deal damage. So you always want to jump at the 4 and the 5. It's the reason why carry heroes like Spectre are so powerful. It's the fact that they can threaten the frontline and backline at the same time. In this case, because you've got double 4-stars available, it makes it incredibly difficult for your melee-based cores to go in for the kill. Orange is not in that position. The last person uses both the Stormwall and the Cold Tower. Unfortunately, ASM will deny himself. So Orange is saying goodbye to
Dire's middle tower is all alone in the world, being attacked.
Because of that, while they do lose gold, they actually aren't able to give any away. So Scorched Earth tactic coming out from Joey. Good play coming up from them. Looks like Centaur Warrior is looking to go for what looks like a harder Tarrasque. make it even more difficult to bring down, or it could actually even be something like a Crimson Gun. Crimson Gun item that has been added in 6.82 provides you an absolutely ridiculous amount of physical EHP for at least the first 40 minutes of the game, because you've got that guaranteed 50 damage block of every instance of physical damage you receive. I believe it's only right-click damage for now. Megalomania could be taking a full with 4-star, already paying for itself. It does walk into the Sunstrike though. The Squirtle is able to find that kill. Cassie's Clay now true forms out. Bear stands his ground. Actually catches out Incinerator. Incinerator 4-star himself. And Cassie's Clay, he's seen this movie before. He knows what happens when he tries to into this. Oranges now comes. The one who goes revenge. Cassie's unfortunately deliberating for a little bit too long. The Oranges should be the find that kill. One more right click. He's got the chakra coming up cooldown. Entangle is there. What is the odds? But Incinerator comes back and brings down the Arcane Bolt. Nicole coming in the middle lane. Shiva's Guard now picked up. Going to be incredibly difficult to bring down the Death Prophet. And saddest thing to see when you're a Legion Commander is dual damage on the enemy hero. Monty, he doesn't want to duel this. He knows how this ends. Stampede's been popping. Nicole says, oh, you don't want to fight? Okay, I'm here to fight. Let's dance. Catches out at his spin. Rifle call him for Sans 40. He's able to get off that small ball before he does. Lenti cuts him down with a double-edged bolt. The hoop stop. Lenti caught him with the stance. Pops that blade on and drive back the enemy ult. The Necronomicon Warriors. Gonna be fair to Nicole. Does get a fair amount of true damage from that, but he picks up 400 gold, so he's more than happy for that. Dual Scepter is coming put on very shortly. Lente, fortunately miscalculating that blink hit out of blink range. Eats an overwhelming ultimate trouble, but he's got double edge as well as a track in the back of mine. Monty actually blinks into that double edge, eats the magic missile and provides a free damage buff over to the Death Prophet. Lente, this time he lands and he cuts down. Very kill heavy again. I will say once again, while it looks like Joey are straight up thugging, they are in commanding lead of this game. If SM is able to find kills on the heroes that have spree, they are able to turn this around. Because this is 8-2 and because a comeback have increased a lot with the amount of golden balls appearance you receive from ending spree, it becomes a lot more important to play the game out to the end, especially once you got the high gun on.
A fine piece of work.
So it certainly isn't game over yet. SM, they are able to show signs of life, even though they are significantly behind. If this was 8-1, there's a 91% chance that Joey would be able to win this. Now, I believe it was 74%, at least that was for 8-2 in the first release, and not too sure about the 6.6 now that 6.82B has dropped. But they have actually rebalanced how the kill spree gold experience works, since it's a ratio of your net worth compared to the flat amount. But in this case, because it's a significant ratio in favor of the Radiant side, finding kills over on core heroes over Joey, or in this case the ones that have 3 gold, if you're able to kill the Cottage, that's about 2,000 gold going to you too.
Regeneration!
So SM, they do have that capacity to turn these games around. Death Prophet, she probably doesn't want to pop her Exorcism because she's got the Aegis of the Immortal. Exorcism does not persist for Aegis. Actually, very few
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Razor, one of the biggest nerfs to the fact that Iron Storm no longer persists for the Aegis. Oranges comes in, throws out a chakra on her 2, immediately pulls it back in. Blade Mail now picked up by Monty.
Dire's middle tower is all alone in the world.
Monty really being shut
attacked.
down. He's going for items that Legion Commander definitely should be going for, but it's the fact that he hasn't been able to find them in a timely fashion. He was shut down heavily over that bottom lane. And it really boils down to the fact that the first support rotation wasn't able to achieve all too much. Actually, fed a kill to Necrotic. In fact, the squad wasn't able to get much out of that. Then Monty runs over the blade off, trying to man-mode it. He eats that Mystic Flare like it was candy. Lenti cuts in, cuts down, there we are. Chaos Healer being dropped. Unfortunately, Wisp running up on him with a magic missile. Lenti trying to keep going for the kill, but Sincer's going to be able to pick that up instead. Actually, Sinner could be taking it full. One more right click. Not going to be enough, unfortunately. It looks like the mech charge was there. Megalomania punching him out. Magic missile could be taking a death to him. Cast his Sleigh. The Radiance burn is going to be enough to be able to win. It looks like the tower actually takes that last hit.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Wants to go into this kill.
Radiant's top tower is under
One
attack.
more right click. It's going to be enough, but unfortunately it's actually
Dire's middle
out of
tower
mana
is
now.
all
Doesn't
alone in the
one more
world.
traction.
Being
Squirtle comes in, punishing the dive coming up from
Dire's
his
middle
Oranges.
tower has
The
fallen.
Oranges, he has to sip a chain out, but the cost comes there. So they are able to find a lot more gold from that. And we've got pings coming up from Megalomania saying, what are you doing, Oranges? No more feed arena.
Dire's
now
middle
decides to
tower
pop the
is under
Exorcism.
attack. Dire structures are
Start
fortified.
threatening the tier 3.
That's what that
Squirtle
wispy
did
glow
buy back for
around the
that.
tower means.
So if he dies, could be some
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
all the Radiant side looks like they are able to pick up the kill over in there. Squirtle gonna get run down by Colin. What's she got? Griffin looks like he's gonna want to kill that to be taking a death. He uses down to be able to avoid the Chaos Meteor. Duel now being used, and Monty comes back in the frame. Nicole Collection could be taken down, but the spirits are coming back in. Heals are back up to full. Cinder finds a kill. Lenti might actually be taking him death with the amplified damage from the Soul Catcher. Looks like the Sunstrike is dead. One out with the Entangle, but Cassius falls back. Full stop keeping him alive. He's like with a Mad Bag coming up on him. Real Cyclone keeping Cinder alive. He's still burning up though. Nicole is now turning around back on the bear. Cassius, no bear for the next 100 seconds. That's a huge amount of window of opportunity going in favor of the enemy team. It's like 80 seconds of air down, 600 gold fed in the last 2 minutes. And his fellow teammates calling the SBCA, accusing him of feeding bears. Squirtle, his items haven't progressed in the last 5 minutes. He's been taking so many deaths because he's find out. Instant cuts shot as well as the extra disruption, keeping him alive now, disjoining that first arcane ball, he needs to attack him, but he's defending before he can leave the college.
His middle tower is under attack.
Orange just got him
no
one first,
to defend itself.
it's not really too fast. And the college is
middle
standing
tower
on the
has
front
fallen.
line. He doesn't have Exorcism, but he still has the
Attention choppers.
This is such a huge amount of gold experience in favor on the rating side. It's not just about ability, she's going to keep himself alive. But now Monty, one of that duel, unfortunately, gets swapped back. Orange Sleigh is about to power the Whirling Death. Cassius Clay, back himself up, eats that chakram. Orange is he's here for revenge. He's simply TP on out. Yule Scepter is dead. There we go, he breaks it. Orange is trying to really commit to this. Damiel still no destruction. Actually uses it aggressively against Orange. Cassius Clay, he's that back from the cards. Godlike. The double kill, rifle as well, Sven. Unfortunately, dies as we live alone. Looks like Damiel is joined with the grave. Tower right clicks under actually off the edges, but the edges was going to wear off. I'm more than happy to go for that. GG well played before. Notice him in that last fight recap. 1,800 gold.
Ranking victory, an achievement for the ages.
That looks like it for game number 1. There is game number 2 coming right up. This is a best of 2 series. So we do have a quick recap of the game. What SM could do if they decide to learn from this game is the fact that they went for the greedy mid lane hero, the Invoker, and 8-2 cannot afford to have a greedy mid lane hero. And you really should look to really start utilizing dual lanes because you have to contest room. The fact that Joey were able to find 2 bottles, so one over on Necrotic as well as one over Megalomania, roam around the map, constantly secure these runes, meant that Invoker in a vacuum left completely alone against the Death Prophet loses every single time. He doesn't have the base damage at level 1 to contest for CS, and especially now that you get even less experience for when you're denied, denies become a lot more important. So Necrotic was able to get that EXP advantage, really control the lane against the Squirtle. Squirtle can't really do too much to recover, and because he went for the Zoo build works if you've already got teamfight power there, so you just need Invoker to be able to push down towers. When you're playing from behind, if you went for something like a Yule Scepter, you could have at least gone for pickoffs. And that would have been the critical factor, because you need to try to pick off the heroes that are getting a huge amount of farm, or even if you catch out the supports. If you catch out Insidu with the Yule Scepter, Meatball into the Sunstrike, instant kill, huge amount of gold going in favor of the Squirtle. He's able to use that to try to buy his team some space. So even though Oranges was actually quite outclassed by Cassius, so the Lone Druid pickup definitely did make a fair amount of sense. It's the fact that the Sven, as well as the Shadow Demon, their first gank in mid actually fed a kill to Necrotic, and that started his spree. And so Gwyfin as well as Damiel, while they did their best to try to rotate, it's the fact that Sven, he's a fairly ineffective 4-position hero compared to others because he's so slow and so difficult for him to really close the distance. Shadow Demon, while he can set up for him with the disruption, Sven isn't going to get as many right clicks in as a hero like a Mirana or a Leshrac, just on the fact that he's ranged. That they're ranged and he's melee, so he has limited time on target, and so it really leads to SM's support duo being a lot weaker than Joey's. Since you've got the Vengeful Spirit as well as the Skyrats who can custom shot set up for the magical missile, and because they're both ranged, you're going to get a lot more right clicks in. So we're going to be taking a quick break, and we should be right back for game number 2. Stay tuned for more.